Grant, welcome to Below the Belt podcast. I think we've been waiting for this one for a little while. Obviously, we first met each other in the gym, right? But you've got a bit of a story that, well, I didn't even know too much about until I heard from Ray, I think it was, owner of the Fitness Factory. Obviously, it's Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, and you've got a story, right?
Yeah.
And it's relating to your brother, and it's quite a sad story. Just tell me a little bit about your brother before we start, though. Before we get into it, what was he like as a person? What was your relationship?
Yeah,
like?
I feel like the only way to best describe my brother is he's like genuinely a good person.
Yeah.
Like you would only really know who he is if you actually knew him. Like there's no words I could really put out there.
Is it
or
older
to
brother
describe
or
it.
younger
Yeah, so
brother?
he was older than me by a few years. I've got a sister as well. She's older, but he's the oldest of them all. Really caring. There's a story I told at his funeral. So I remember it was Christmas. So it was on Christmas Day. It was actually the last Christmas we spent together as a family. We all sat down having Christmas dinner. Then he got up, went into the kitchen. So I remember my mum turning around and saying, "Oh, Tony, what are you doing?" And he was putting loads of food into a Tupperware box.
Tony was.
Yeah, Tony was. Yeah. So he turned around and he went, "Oh, I'm just packing up a bit of food for later." And my mum went, "Oh, you're gonna have that later. You're still hungry, are you?" And he went, "Oh no, there's a bloke who lives in a flat opposite me." And he goes, "An alcoholic." And he goes, he struggled with addiction for a while. He ended up losing his whole family, lost his wife, lost his kids, lost all his friends. He just sat inside this little flat by himself. And obviously my brother moved in next to him. So his idea was, instead of this bloke sitting alone on Christmas, he was going to go with him, bring him a dinner, sit and have a drink with him. And you might think, drinking with an alcoholic, probably not the best thing to do. But it's either my brother was there with him on Christmas Day, or he's just sat there by himself alone. I think that describes him really well because he was almost so caring of other people all the time, like putting other people before himself. I even remember him talking about addiction actually around the dinner table. Because I remember one of us said, "Oh, why are you taking the dinner out for the old local pisshead?" And he goes, "Oh no, addiction can get anyone." He's like, it's like this bloke.
I admire that.
Yeah. He said this bloke, he's had a family and kids.
Not looking down on him in any way.
Yeah, not at all. Yeah, like you feel like he's got his life set and it's just gone. It's just completely gone south. And that could happen to anyone. And he's always talked about that, saying you should always look after people. You know what I mean? Who are struggling. And I think that story describes him really well. Really, wicked brother.
What was the age gap between you and Tony?
So I lost him a couple of years ago, and he was 32 then. So I'd have been 22 at the time. It's a funny thing that you actually chose this date. You didn't actually know at the time. It's actually 2 years ago today. What it was. So I didn't want to bring it up to you just in case you thought that might not be a good time to talk about it.
It's quite a coincidence. And again, I admire you for coming on and talking about it, especially on
the 2 year
on this day, right?
Like usually I don't normally believe in like signs and things like that, but when you said that date, I thought
it's gotta be that day.
I thought there's a reason that's come up to like almost look back at his life. And I wouldn't know what better day to talk about it really.
The funny thing is,
today.
I couldn't do the week after.
We couldn't.
I couldn't do the week before.
Yeah, and I couldn't do the week after that either. Could I?
So, like you said, maybe it was meant to be.
Yeah, it's meant to happen.
Yeah, for those of whom are listening, and I hope I've got this right. I think obviously your brother lost his life to suicide.
Yeah, that's right.
Took
his own life.
Which is a horrible thing, and we know it's something that it's becoming quite common in this. I don't know, is it just this country or around the world? But obviously you've told us a little bit kind of what Tony was like.
Yeah.
Obviously you've told us about kind of your relationship. So he was quite a kind, giving person. And was he quiet? Was he loud? Was he like life and soul of the party?
Do you know what? Really, really loud. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know,
was it? Okay.
So if you almost meet me for the first time, I'm probably quite introverted until you get to know me. He's like the complete opposite. Extroverted straight away. I remember when I was younger, we were walking down the street to go to the shop. I must have been about 10. And he started chatting to this guy just on the street. I must have been stood there for 10 minutes waiting for him talking to this guy. Yeah. And I remember him going off, and I said to my brother, "Who was that?" And he went, "I don't know. Just some random bloke."
Okay. So he liked it. He's like that. Just talking to him.
If he went into a pub, he could sit down with anyone. Yeah. Sit and have a conversation with him. He's really like that. Really, really open to everyone. loved hearing people's stories. Had a few stories himself. He was a good crack. He was a really good bloke.
Yeah, so you give a lot of his time to other people.
Yeah, massively. Yeah,
which I think, especially in this day and age, everyone's living their lives. Probably even myself, 100 miles an hour. You think you've not got time for anything.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
sometimes just to take a step back and just to listen to someone.
Yeah.
Someone may have something to say. They may be a bit lonely in this day and age,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
That's quite a big thing that
Yeah.
that he does, and it's something that is very much overlooked, and it's not something you'll get noticed for.
Yeah, definitely.
But he can make a lot of people feel good for it,
Yeah,
right?
100%. It's the way he could talk to anyone. I feel like I wish I could take that a little bit more from him. How he does that. So yeah, it's absolutely brilliant what he used to do.
I can definitely see that trait in you because, like I said, obviously, I started at Fitness Factory. I don't know how long it's been now. I think it was before your brother passed. But yeah, when me and Sim used to see you in the gym, we literally just think you were your average, typical, bubbly guy.
Yeah,
really great to chat with, get along with. Not got a problem in the world. Like nothing on his shoulders. Just living life, having fun. And then when I heard the story from, well, I didn't even hear the story from Ray. He just told me kind of high level what had happened.
Yeah.
I was like, no way. I would never have guessed that in a million years because it's not something that you, I don't think, show to other people, whether it be kind of the emotional aspect or whatever, or you let it kind of come in the way of your day-to-day life. But we'll come on to that a little bit later in terms of how you kind of handle things through kind of the days, the months, the years. But let's talk about the day.
Yeah.
That it happened, and again, I know it's a difficult conversation, so we'll take it.
Yeah, this is the hard part.
We'll take it as we need to. But again, the reason that I want to talk about this is I think that I'm very ignorant to this type of stuff, and I think it's stuff that you hear about, but I think you don't often hear real life stories about people close to you where suicide has occurred, right?
Yeah.
And I think sometimes it's a word that people don't want to talk about.
Yeah, it's
they
a
don't
bit of a taboo
discuss.
subject to face head on and talk about it. Yeah,
definitely, it's a very hard subject. But tell me about the morning that it happened when you woke up. How did your day start?
So my routine day to day is always pretty much the same. So I think it was a Wednesday morning. Tuesday morning it was. So I woke up on a Tuesday morning. I normally have my clients first thing in the morning. So a personal trainer. I think I had 3 clients that day, and I got home probably about 9 o'clock. So 9 o'clock in the morning, and my brother was at home, so he'd normally be
and
at
you were
work.
living together, right?
Yeah, so he was at the time living at the family house.
So who was at home? It was you?
Tony? At this time, it's just me and Tony. So obviously our parents lived there as well.
Yeah.
But at this particular day, it was just us two in the house.
Okay.
So I remember I come home, and he was in the kitchen. So at this point, he should have been at work. So I knew that straight away.
Okay.
So I just said to him, "Oh, how come you're not at work today?" And he just responded saying, "Oh, today I've got a day off. I'm going to get my hair cut. Going to go into town, get a few clothes, just do a few errands." So I just thought, "Oh, Sam, literally nothing of it." I just said, "Have a good day." I went upstairs. So because I start so early and finish so late, I normally have a nap about midday. So I went to sleep. I normally wake up about 11. Come back downstairs, he's already gone. So that's actually the last time I ever spoke to him, and last time I even seen him. So I went off to work at that point. So I finished work at 9:30 at night. So I come home probably about 20 to 10. So come through the door, realised my brother wasn't home. My parents were sat in the front room, but nothing strange was happening. I just went up to bed, went straight to sleep. So I probably got woke up probably about 11:15. Not my parents arguing, but there's raised voices. Okay. Obviously, caused
so something got your attention.
Yeah, so that woke me up, and I thought my parents never really argue.
So gut feeling kind of thing.
Come to the top of the stairs, and I could hear him talking about Tony not answering his phone. And to be fair, at the time, that didn't ring any alarm bells for me. So it happened to me now. If I'm out on a date with a girl or sitting with my mates, my phone would be going absolutely mental. My mum calling me, "Where are you? What are you doing?" So
typical parents.
That's what they do. I know she's a worrier. She means well, but when she's calling you 5-10 times, you're thinking, "Oh, bloody hell, I'm not ignoring this one. I ain't answering this."
And you had no reason to think anything.
Anything strange. So I knew that's what I thought was happening straight away. But at that time, I thought, I'll call him. Because I know for a fact if I called him or he called me, we'd pick up literally like that.
And what time was this?
So that was probably about 11:15, 20:11.
Oh, in the evening?
Yeah, at night.
Oh, okay, and everyone's wondering where is he?
Saying why is he not here? So I tried to call him. The first time, didn't answer. So I said to my mum, where's he said he's gone? He said, I had a chat with him about 20 minutes ago. So he's getting to McDonald's. He's on the way home. So I thought, bloody hell. So,
So it's only, they
yeah,
spoke to him 20 minutes
yeah,
prior.
yeah,
Okay.
20 minutes before. So I kept calling him. I think I called him about 8 or 9 times, and it started going straight to voicemail. I know he wouldn't be buttoning me, so I knew his phone's died.
Yeah.
At that point, I thought something's just not right here. So at this point already, my parents already called a taxi to come and pick. So my parents don't drive to pick them up to take them to my brother's. He had a masonette to take them there, but he was living at home.
Okay.
So they thought he's just at the masonette. So I said, forget the taxi, I'll take us. So we jumped in my car. The drive from mine to his is probably between like 5 and 10 minutes. Mate, I almost drove it in about 2.
Oh,
Literally
really?
bombed it there.
What, did you have a feeling something wasn't
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I just thought, so as soon as he didn't answer the phone to me, I thought, yeah, something's not right here.
Yeah.
So I don't even really remember the car journey. It's almost like I remember my parents talking, but I don't remember even hearing what they're saying. It's like I had my own thoughts in my head. What was
just
happened?
tunnel
Yeah,
visioned in your own head,
yeah,
right?
yeah, 100%. I was in my own head. I was that focused on just getting there as fast as I can. Nothing else was in my world at that point. So he pulled up to the masonette. My dad had a set of keys, but he started knocking the door. As he started doing that, I remember I went round to the back of the masonette. They had some parking. And my brother had OCD. He actually talked about it in his note, what he left for us. He was suffering with OCD. So if I had this, if I had a coaster on that,
about OCD prior to
no,
that?
not I didn't personally.
And again, I guess that's something hard sometimes when you're not paying attention to it. It hasn't been pointed out
Yeah.
that if someone's got OCD.
Yeah, you wouldn't. So if I had a coaster on this table here,
Yeah.
it couldn't be at an angle. It'd be dead straight. But if
really?
you went into his room, everything's dead straight. Everything's perfect. So when we went onto the back of the masonette, his car was parked with the wheel over the line. Straight away, I thought he wouldn't do that. There's something going on here. So come back down to the front. My dad had the key in the door to his masonette. So as soon as you open that door, there's a wall straight in front of you, and to your right is a stairs. Obviously, go up. Obviously, he lived on the top part. I just remember my dad just shouting, "What are you doing?" And so obviously, I've not seen anything at this point. That's all I've heard. So my dad's gone in first, starts to go up the stairs. I've gone in behind me, and yeah, just like I guess there he was. He hung himself on the spindles in the attic, and then obviously he was coming through the attic, and he hung himself. So my mum came behind me, and I just remember there's one thing that always sticks with me. There's no pain in like a woman's voice after like losing their child.
Yeah.
That scream she did will always stick with me.
Did you hear the scream first before?
But I already seen him, and my mum came behind me.
Yeah.
And then she screamed. I just remember that really stuck with me.
So
I remember telling her to go outside. My dad went up to the top of the stairs. I think he kind of stood there just in shock. But in stuff like that, I'm always quite good at just reacting. So I remember I grabbed him, picked him up. I'd like to take the pressure off his neck.
Yeah.
I said to my dad, "Get a knife from the kitchen, quick." So he's gone into the kitchen, and I remember looking at my brother, and at this point, his lips were already blue, his hands were blue. I just knew something straight away that this ain't going to end well. But my dad come back in. He cut him down, and I actually remember him hitting the ground, and it almost sounded like he took a breath of air. So at this point, it was almost there's like hope here.
Oh, okay.
I thought, what was that? But now I look back, I don't know if that was because the air was like trapped in the lungs or what, and when the pressure got relieved, they let it out. But I remember thinking, there's hope here. So I remember getting onto the phone to 999. I started CPR, and I even remember thinking, like, people saying before, when you're doing CPR, you'd rather have broken ribs than to not do it right. So I remember I was really going for the CPR while I was on the phone to the ambulance. I remember when I haven't had him on speaker, and they're saying, "Where are you?" And at the time, the address and everything just went out of my head. Like, I couldn't focus.
Yeah, I
I was getting the address wrong and everything. And then she kept saying, "What city?" And I remember saying the address name again. And she kept saying, "What city are you in?" So I remember saying Coventry. I finally got it right. So at this point, obviously the neighbours was hearing the scream and my mum crying outside. So actually, the look of it, the two nurses came in. They worked at a local hospital. So they took over the CPR. So I managed to get on the phone to the
So
ambulance.
what, they were there locally?
Yeah, they live literally like across the street
And how
from it.
did they just hear your
Yeah,
mum?
so
or?
they heard my mum just crying outside. So they come running over.
Yeah.
They took over the CPR. Obviously, do a lot better job than I was doing.
Well, the fact that you're able to fucking pull yourself together in that moment to even do the CPR, takes balls.
I even look back and think at the time, like, I remember thinking his life is almost in my hands.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't fuck this up. Like
The pressure on your
I've got
shoulders
one
in
fucking
that
chance
moment.
to get this right. Like I'm not messing this up. Within minutes, the ambulance arrived. It must have been about 3 or 4 minutes since after I called them. They showed up. That's how fast it was. I couldn't believe how fast they got there. They come into the masonette. They ushered us all outside. They actually told my dad to get into one of the rooms, and they took us outside. They said, "Oh, we're going to give him these drugs. It's going to kickstart his heart, stuff like this." So, but until
So
then,
they thought
just
there
sit
was
tight.
a chance of
Well, they just tried to explain what the drugs did.
Okay.
They didn't really say there's chance here or anything like that. They said, "This is what the drugs do." Yeah.
Okay.
And it said it's just not a pretty sight. You wouldn't want to be there. So we just went outside. At this point, it kind of, the way I seen him when I first went in, I didn't have much hope.
Yeah.
The way he looked, it just looked lifeless there already. So probably after it was probably about 5-10 minutes, they came back round outside. And they just said no.
Yeah. Fucking hell. Do you think it was a sign? Do you know when you pulled up, you said he had OCD, and obviously the way that his car was parked and it was slightly off the white lines.
Yeah,
that would
have
would have been intentional, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that was? And again, it's hard to know what would have been going through his mind, but do you think that was maybe a case of the tiniest of signs to tell you guys something's happened?
Yeah.
Like just in a semi way to
could have been,
pre-warn you,
100%,
perhaps.
Yeah, I think it's one of two things. His mind was almost clouded at the time, so it's something
He just couldn't concentrate.
It's something he'd normally do, but he hasn't done.
Yeah.
Or that is a sign. Like, I know 100% he would have parked that car straight. But he didn't. So it could have been a sign, 100%. Yeah, I think it could have been like a sort of sign to us, like something's not right there.
It just sounds crazy from what you said, how he was when you spoke to him.
Yeah.
In the morning. To obviously what unfolded. Were there even any signs in the previous kind of weeks?
Yeah.
Months,
so we did know he was suffering with his mental health.
Yeah.
Just because he attempted it before. So
he
attempted it a few months prior, but he obviously he failed that attempt. Then he come back to live with us.
Yeah.
So that he still had the masonette, but he wasn't living there. That's why he come back to the family home.
Did he say what the reason was why he?
Not really to me ever.
Still never, even after the first time.
Yeah, he always just said to me, "Oh, I was being stupid. I don't know why I even did that. I don't think like that anymore. I've come across that."
It's like he doesn't want to put that worry on you, right?
100%.
Which is, he doesn't want you to think, "Oh, you've got a panic about me now." Or,
yeah.
It's crazy how he was just trying to brush that off.
Yeah,
to you,
yeah. Like almost like it was nothing to him.
Yeah.
But one thing will always stick with me as well. If you go into his Facebook now, I think it might be his cover photo. Says something along the lines of, "Be careful how you act, but you don't know who's looking up to you." So I think that's a similar thing. Like, if he doesn't want to show that to anyone else, just in case, say, like me or my sister were looking up to him, like that's not what we look up to. Like that isn't him. So that's why I feel like he never really got into that with me. When a couple of days later, we actually went round to the masonette with a few of his friends, and his neighbours come out, and they started talking to us, and they knew more about Tony's problems than I did.
Wow.
He never really opened up to me, or probably not really much to his close mates either. But I feel like he didn't do that because he was too proud of people who knew who he was.
Yeah, on a day-to-day,
So,
didn't want him worrying about him.
Didn't worry about him.
If you could tell strangers who...
Yeah, but them strangers don't really know him or have any connections with him, so he could really open up to them.
Yeah.
But I don't think he wanted anyone to know really what he was going through. But obviously, so he came back to the family home and started living with us again. I actually remember I tried to get him to start training.
Yeah.
So I said to him, I knocked on his bedroom door one day.
Was he ever into like health and fitness?
Massively. Yeah,
he was.
Yeah, he was into a lot of boxing. Used to do a bit of weight. He's actually trained down the fitness factory for a few years.
Okay.
So when I tried to get him back into training, he just said, "No, what? I will, but not just yet. I've got a few. He had scars all over his throat because obviously he tried to hang himself before.
Okay, yeah.
He said, "I don't want people seeing me with these."
Yeah.
He said, "Because he grew up in that area, Wollongong, Binley. People
Yeah.
knew who he was. I
Yeah.
think he was embarrassed of the fact that happened.
Yeah.
And he was too prideful. So he didn't want anyone to know. So he used to always walk around with this Adidas jacket on, always have it zipped up right to the top. He didn't want anyone to see. He said, "You know what? When this clears up, I'll be back to train." But even then, he was actually telling his friends that he was training. Obviously, we didn't know this till after.
Okay.
So obviously, to them,
He's
recovering.
right path.
Yeah, he's back in the gym.
Yeah.
He's back to how he was before a couple of years ago. He's having a laugh with us again. He's back in the gym. But I don't think it was really like that to him. He hit it really well. Yeah.
Okay, no, that's interesting. So in terms of what he was telling those people that he wasn't close to, like you said, they knew more about his struggles than you guys did. What was it that he was actually telling them?
Yeah. I know he had a lot of problems with his past relationship. I think that's he always said he's obviously, because he attempted it before, he left a note, and he actually said at the top of the note, "This is not why I've done it," because obviously there's past relationship.
Oh, he actually left a note, did he?
But I even think leaving it after the first line, it's almost like thinking, I don't want you to think it is, but I believe there's something there where obviously and the relationship ended badly. And I don't think that ever really quite sat with him.
Yeah.
So obviously with that note, we kind of understand his struggles. But he never actually spoke to me about or anyone else either. Yeah. So that was it. So when I tried to get back into training, he didn't want to train. He wouldn't open up to everyone. But I do feel like even if he talked, the problems were still there.
It's just crazy because I can just imagine he'd be one of those people, if you see him in the street or if you see him at work, you'd never have guessed.
Yeah, not at all. Yeah,
that this was going on, which I think I can imagine this, especially in this day and age now when you've got financial pressures which are like through the roof for so many people now. Just the pressure to succeed in life. You got social media out there now. If anything, it's even harder now just to not just be a man, but just a person in general succeeding in life. You feel so many pressures.
Yeah.
And I can imagine there's a lot of other people out there who are walking around like the average person who's having some real difficulties, right? Which is why I think people should sometimes be a little bit kinder. I just think you don't know what someone's going through behind closed doors kind of thing.
It's funny that you mention that because about the pressures people put on themselves.
Yeah.
Because I do remember him having a conversation with us where when he split up with his ex, he moved out, obviously for the Masonette, moved back in with us. And he said, in life, I feel like I'm going backwards. He said, my job I'm happy with, but I'm not really going anywhere. I got out living at the family home, but now I'm back in it. I had a relationship, and now that's gone. It felt like I was almost moving my life forward, and now I'm taking backward steps again. I think that really bothered him, especially now with social media, like you said. I can open my Instagram now, go on my Explore page. There's people in their 20s and 30s. Same age, similar age to me, and similar age to my brother. They're driving around in a Lamborghini. They're in Dubai. They've got a beautiful girlfriend. They've got a family. They feel like they've got their life together. And I think, especially in your 30s, I think with society, that's when they believe you should start. You've got your house. You've got a family. You've got your house set. But because he didn't, I think that really maybe played on his mind.
Pressure got to him and probably putting himself down. Right? And I 100% agree. I wouldn't be surprised if that was one of kind of the mental kind of problems that he was struggling with, because like even myself, I've just turned 30 and in some ways it does kind of hit you. You start kind of self-reflecting, where are you in life? And I think a huge thing for guys is sometimes where we have a massive problem is kind of discovering that our purpose for life. And sometimes our purpose doesn't need to be a millionaire, billionaire, driving Lamborghinis, this and that. Sometimes it could be have a little family at home, got a nice little house, and you don't need to again be a millionaire or have this car, that car, or whatever. But I think the fact that social media is out there now, 100%. and I think sometimes this is what I've had to do personally as well, is check myself, because I think no matter who you are, you will subconsciously to some level compare yourself, because it's highlight reels on there, right? And that's what you need to remind yourself of, that listen, it's highlight reels. Sometimes I've had to bring myself back out of it to say, listen, stop comparing yourself. That's
guys,
great. Those people are smashing it, but my definition of success will be my
A bit
definition
different,
of
yeah,
success,
is
and
it?
it will be different. Everybody's
Yeah.
is different. So yeah, I can imagine that's a massive challenge for people as well with social media. Was he on social media a lot?
Yeah. So he had social media, but it was pretty old school, really. He didn't use it that often. He
Yeah.
went through Facebook and everything like that.
Do you think sometimes that can be worse as well? And some people, they're on all the social media
Yeah.
platforms, but sometimes
Some is
you
not
may not
active, yeah,
use it,
yeah.
but you'll be such a
Yeah,
consumer
you're
of it.
almost a
You're constantly
consumer, yeah.
watching other people,
Yeah.
which can in itself be just as bad sometimes, right? Not saying you need to be posting all
Yeah.
the time, but I'm saying even if you're not posting, if you're still
Consuming
consuming
it
a
all the
lot of it
time,
and
yeah.
you're just watching other people, what they're doing,
Yeah.
and again, so you start forgetting that it's highlight reels
Yeah.
that you're watching. You think
I
it's
think,
just day-to-day
yeah.
life,
I
right?
think a massive thing is, let's say, so my Instagram, for example, I follow 1,000 people on there. So if I go across my stories, someone's always doing something. Someone's on
Yeah.
holiday. They've got a new car. They've got these new clothes. Like, so every day I look at that, someone's doing something.
Yeah.
But I'm not doing something every day, and
Yeah.
I think most people every day aren't doing something. But because I'm following such a vast amount of people, I'm always exposed to it. But I think it's good to. What helps me, I believe I'm almost rich in different ways. Like, yeah, I might have a Lamborghini, I might still live with my parents, but I've got both parents still.
Yeah,
I've got my
yeah.
sister. I've got great friends around me. I do a job that I love going to every day. So in different ways, I am rich what they might not have. Not necessarily
Yeah.
just materialistic, but
Yeah.
I think as a guy, we probably base a lot of our success on like career. Yeah, but so if that's not quite there for you, maybe look at what you have got, what you have achieved for yourself. It might be different for someone else, but at least you've done something.
Yeah, no, I think you couldn't have said that any
Yeah.
better, to be honest. I think, especially now in the world that we're in, where there is so many kind of financial pressures and things, it has even made me kind of self-reflect as
Yeah.
well. What do I actually want to get out of life? I think first and foremost, the way that I've become much happier is look at myself as a person
Yeah.
first. Am I doing the things that I would be proud of? Can I look at myself and be proud of myself and the
Yeah.
actions that I take? Am I helping people? Am I helping myself? Am I being selfish? Am
Yeah.
I being a good son? Am I being a good husband? That kind of thing. Like, am I doing the things that make me proud?
Yeah.
I don't even want kind of materialistic things to come into the picture.
Yeah.
But it's hard. It is hard,
Yeah,
right? Because like
definitely.
when you've got it shoved in your face
Yeah.
day after day on social media, and again, not knocking the people that have got the Lamborghinis, the
Yeah,
Bugattis,
yeah.
and whatever. Fair play to you,
Yeah.
but with social media, it is very hard not to go down that comparison route, right? And I think we do need to kind of check ourselves
Yeah.
at times and just keep
Yeah.
ourselves grounded. And like you said, that I think that was really well said about focus on what you have got,
Yeah.
your parents, your family, your
Yeah.
friends,
Yeah.
and
I don't-
whatnot.
with me, because the stuff I'm exposed to, I always feel like, am I doing enough? Like, I think, am I working enough hours? Am I working hard enough? But I look back and I think, well, I do the full-time job at the gym. I'm doing 40 hours. I do between 20 and maybe like 25 clients a week as sessions. I train as well. I'm always in that gym. I'm like, with my career, I probably can't really give much more time to it. Like,
Do you feel pressures? Like
Yeah.
how old are you now?
I'm 24 now, nearly 25 this month.
That's
Yeah.
young, man. Making me feel old. Do you feel? I want to know like the mind of someone at your
Yeah.
age, your mid 20s. Because I'm 30. I'll be honest. I feel pressures
Yeah.
all the time, and I feel like what I say to myself is, you can't afford to break. You've got
Yeah.
too many people relying on you. You need to keep yourself
Yeah.
mentally strong. You can't afford to get yourself into that position. And this is why I thought it was so good to have this conversation with you, because sometimes I remember the other day I was having a bad day, and I can't remember what it was. And it's not something that even you see my social media.
Yeah.
Maybe I should post more about my bad days, but yeah, I
Yeah.
was having a bad day. I wasn't completely with it. I wasn't present. And I think me and the missus, maybe she noticed that I think she just thought I was in a mood, being moody
Yeah,
and
yeah.
grumpy, to be fair. And I was actually at the gym, and I was going to text her and say, do you know what? I'm having a bit of a bad day. Just bear with me.
Yeah.
I started typing it at the gym, and I deleted it. And then afterwards, it made me think, like, why did I delete it?
Yeah.
Like, why did I not feel like I could say
To
that?
open up. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
why did I feel like I had to be the person who doesn't have problems, kind
Yeah.
of thing?
I think
And
it's
then-
part of like that masculine role, isn't it? No, like how society sees a man.
I
Like,
think
yeah.
it is, and not saying we should be the complete opposite, because I think it does make us feel good when we have responsibilities and accountability.
Yeah.
But I think at the same time, that didn't make me feel good that I hadn't communicated to
Yeah.
her. So I think as soon as I got back, because I had the drive home to myself where I had the time to think, and I think, I thought, you know what, I do need to communicate.
Yeah.
And when I did communicate it, she was great. She listened. She was really understanding. And I feel like I did take a bit of weight off my shoulders. But just that moment in itself showed me that it was very easy for me not to have that second follow-up conversation. I think a lot of guys do that. Like, they'll be in that moment where they think, I need to talk. No, I'll just not talk. I'll keep it to myself. And it builds up, right, over time.
Yeah. I think as well, like, from that, is that because, like, to you, as a man, you're almost like alpha male. Nothing phases me. I've got my head screwed on. I'm not going to get emotional. That's probably why you don't want people to see that in a way.
I think to some extent, and not saying it's right by any means. I wouldn't say it's is it the alpha male man type of mindset. I don't know. I guess it's kind of, because to be fair, like my dad, I don't think I've in all my life, in all my 30 years, 31 next week, I think I've probably seen him cry once, maybe, and that it weren't even a proper cry. It was just probably,
I have to say, that's my dad as well. Yeah,
probably just the odd
it's
tear.
that one time. Yeah,
I don't know if I've subconsciously looked, because trust me, I've cried plenty in my life. So I'm definitely not going to live up to that. I'm not saying that is even something to live up to, because sometimes I've said to my dad, like, why do you not cry? Why do you not show emotion? And he is quite big on being strong and being emotionally strong and mentally strong. And I get that. I think it's great advice, but it's, how do you find the balance? What's the right balance to show emotion as a man, not show emotion, be there for those around you? There is literally, I feel like, a million things going on in our mind that sometimes we don't have the answers, right? We don't know how to handle it.
Lost,
and sometimes we just feel like sometimes I'm like, I just feel like going mad. Like, there's so much going on. Like, I don't know whether do I talk to someone? Do I just keep powering through? But so with you, how do you handle, like, not how do you just handle the day-to-day pressures? Because how many years have been now since you built
so it's 2 years today.
2 years today.
Yeah.
How have those 2 years been for you? Cause forget the pressures of life. You've got another pressure on your shoulders now, right? Of that. And how have you and your parents been handling it?
So with me personally, I feel like I need to sit with it and just think about what's happened. I can be almost quite good at ignoring it. Like, I remember, obviously, when I lost my brother, I went straight. Probably a couple of days later, I went to train. Started in the gym.
Couple of days later.
Yeah. Went straight back into gym. Started training. Asked my mate Nathan to come with me. We went to another gym because I knew people knew. I didn't want people talking to them about it.
Okay, you just want to train.
Yeah. So I said to my mate Nathan, right, we'll go to a different gym. Come with me. I don't want to talk about it. So we just had a normal day. And that's almost the start of what I'm doing. I just blanked it. The following week, I went back to work.
Hold on, I'm just thinking, fucking 2 years ago. And I started at Fitness Factory at this point. This is crazy. I had no idea about it, mate.
Yeah.
Mate, that's mad. The fact that I saw you walking about.
Yeah, you wouldn't have known. Yeah.
Mate, I had no idea, not in the slightest. And I don't know whether that's a good or a bad thing or not. But carry on.
Probably at the time. Now, I feel like I've come to terms with it. But at the time, So went to train, started training a couple of days later. I think the week after that, I wanted to be back at work. So I got back to work. The week after that, I had all my clients back in. So my life went back to normal straight away. But because I'm that busy, I couldn't think about it. I was up at 6 in the morning. I was finishing work at 9:30 at night. Like, I was always occupied.
Did it help staying occupied?
At the time, definitely, yeah. Because I was always putting it to the back of my mind. I don't think I was hurting, but because I was so occupied with everything else, I almost like just blanked it out.
Was it good though, or was that just you suppressing?
Actually dealing with it? Massively suppressing. So as soon as I finished work, got home, sat in bed, lights off, I'm going to sleep. That's when it hit you. So because I didn't deal with it the way I should have, it was always creeping up on me. Until the time where I could kind of think, right, put everything on pause, sit down, think what's happened, start to process things. And I come to the conclusion that he didn't make an irrational decision. Like, he wasn't just out of the blue saying, that's not going to end my life today. It's almost like it was his solution to the problems, because there wasn't another solution there to him. And that made me realise, think, because my brother wasn't a stupid man. He was very intelligent and emotionally intelligent. So almost come to terms to think, right, for him, I'd never condone to think that was the right decision, but he did think it was. And I almost trust his decision in what he did. And I think that how we really cope with it. But until I did that, I was just almost just on a blanket. One thing what creeped up on me, At some times I'd feel guilty for doing that as well, where I'd go back to work, start training again, do clients. I'd get home and think, should I be doing this? Should I be mourning?
Yeah.
And then it would hit me again. Like I was absolutely heartbroken that I lost him, but that was my way of just dealing with it. You know what I mean? Just keep myself busy.
I don't think there is can't be a right or wrong way of dealing with it, right? But I can imagine you were trying to think, what is the right way? How do I deal with it?
At least now I know. I think you learn the most about yourself during these difficult times. I know the best way for me to deal with it is just to face it head on. Don't hide it, because that wasn't helping me.
Yeah.
It was always with me every single day until I sat down and really processed what happened.
Was that hard, those moments where you were sat with yourself? And or do you think it helped?
They were hard, but it's what I needed.
Yeah.
To really, I must have played that same night in my head. Mate, it must have been 1,000 times, over and over and over again. But that's how I come to process it and accept it.
How are your mum and dad? How are they doing?
At first,
I know it's I feel like it's the most stupid question to ask.
At first, they were absolutely horrendous, but over time, they're a lot better now. And to be honest, I'm so proud of them. They've done such a good job.
Yeah.
And they'd be proud. Well, I think they should be proud of themselves on how they're doing. I remember when we first lost him, they would stay in bed all day, wouldn't get out of bed. But I think that's a sign of depression in itself. Like they almost stopped their whole lives, but now they're coming out of that a little bit.
As a parent, it's probably, if you could rank it, the worst feeling you're ever going to have, the worst thing that can happen. So, no, I'm not surprised. That's why I just wanted to ask that question. I was like, as a parent, how do you even deal with that? Did you feel the pressure of having to get your parents back and into normality and trying to get them out?
I tried to, but they're just too stubborn.
Really?
Yeah.
They needed to do it in their own time.
Yeah. They took their time, but obviously not that they're not better now. Obviously, they're still hurting probably every day for losing their child.
Course.
But there's showing signs of improvement. So I'm proud of them for that. Yeah.
Awesome. So obviously the way that I met you is, I think we've got closer over the last probably year or so as we've got to know each other a bit more. And that's how I came to learn about your story as well through Ray. How big a part has Fitness Factory had on your life? Because I know you're there pretty much 24/7 now. And I know there was a really kind gesture that I didn't know that members in the gym had done.
So the Fitness Factory is probably one of the biggest things in my life. Some people might go, oh, that's sad that the gym's your life, you've got nothing else apart from that. But how many people can sit there and think, I'm truly happy with what I'm doing? I get up, I go to work, I'm happy. Like,
I love that you don't compare, but compare yourself to others and their ideas of success. I'm looking at myself, I'm happy with what I'm very happy. You're very grateful for what you've got, right?
Like, if you enjoy what you do, you never have to work a day in your life. And I truly enjoy what I do. Like, when I do PTing, it's something I'm passionate about. It's one of my hobbies and I love it. And when I work behind the counter, it's like I'm working with Dean and Liam. It's like working with my brothers again. It's such a good atmosphere there. I absolutely love it.
What age did you start working there?
I actually started working there when I was 16. So I actually started working there during my work experience. Then after I finished, a girl who used to work there left, and I almost took her role straight after. So as I took her role, I worked there for probably a couple of years. While I was at sixth form. Took on an apprenticeship doing personal training, and obviously I've been there since. But the members at the gym, I can never thank them enough, and my whole family couldn't thank them. So many people might not know, but they actually paid for my brother's funeral.
That's amazing.
When he passed, when I started to think, well, what's the next steps? I thought, it's got a funeral. So first thing I did, Googled how much is a funeral, and it said something between like $4,000 and like $7,000 on average. So I was thinking, my parents don't have that. I was thinking, who's going to pay for that? I thought, it's going to be me, probably my sister and his friends. That's what I just had in my head. A couple of days later...
that's the last thing you want to be worrying about at that time
it's like
as well,
financial problems, we didn't come from a wealthy background. We weren't poor by any stretch of the imaginations, but we weren't very wealthy. So I thought, it's kind of on me and my sister and his friends to pay for that funeral. A couple of days later, I remember waking up... Jim got together to make a GoFundMe to pay for his funeral. Mate, cry my eyes out straight away.
Really?
Made me realise how good these people are. They're not just members, but almost a community and a family, all mixed
You
into one.
definitely feel that community
that kind of
feeling
vibe
when
from
you're
it,
there, 100%.
So I think together we raised, I think it was between 4 and 5 grand. It might have been 4.5
Wow,
grand.
awesome.
We had like a fun day outside the pub next door. I remember Ben Driver got a tattoo on his ass for it to raise some money.
Awesome.
So there's a few things they did to raise some money. But yeah, that money paid for my brother's funeral, paid for the whole day, and we had some left over to just give to charity as well. Yeah, so it was absolutely brilliant. And my family obviously couldn't thank them enough. We always feel like we're in debt to them people.
That's amazing. Such a kind gesture.
Yeah.
And
Massively.
like I said, when you're going through something like that, the last thing you need to be worrying about is I didn't even know a funeral fucking cost that much. Luckily, I've never had to organise one like that. But yeah, I genuinely didn't know that they cost that much. But so let's talk about the gym, health and fitness. Obviously, you spoke about trying to get Tony into the gym and into health and fitness. And it's probably something he knew would have helped him, but maybe he just wasn't there in terms of taking the step of going to the gym. But how has it helped you, and why do you think it would have been so important for him when he was going through a difficult time, and why would it be important for a lot of other people, do you think, if they are going through a difficult time mentally?
So if you go to the doctors and you say you're struggling with depression and give them all the symptoms, they actually prescribe you a drug called an SSRI. So if you break depression down into its simplest form, it's a lack of serotonin in the brain. So you're lacking serotonin. It's a neurotransmitter which acts like a hormone. So it gives us that happy feeling. So what an SSRI does, it doesn't boost the amount of serotonin you have. It inhibits the reuptake of serotonin. So in layman's terms, it rations it. So because you ration that serotonin, you might hear people on antidepressants say, I feel like numb all the time, like one level. That's because having that numbed serotonin, you don't have them ups and downs and spikes in mood. You just stay the same all the time. So you find with people who don't train, they'll be on them drugs the rest of their life because you're not boosting the serotonin that you need. But if you go to the studies now, case studies showing if you go to the gym, you train or you go outside and walk in the sunlight, that makes serotonin. It boosts your serotonin. So that's what you should be focusing on. And now they're actually, if you go to the doctors more recently, they do recommend going to gym, going to train. But I thought the problem we have is getting people through the doors. If you're already feeling down and depressed about yourself,
you don't want to do anything.
It's hard to get off.
I've seen it in my own eyes. People who are, whether it be suffering depression or something else, getting them even to the gym is the biggest step.
It's a struggle.
Like, how do you fill that void? How do you fill that gap of getting them from the sofa to the gym?
I think that's the $1 million question.
It's big. As easy as it sounds, I think that is a huge leap for someone who is really struggling. Just taking that one step of saying, all right, I'm going to step into the gym and go is a huge deal for someone who's struggling, right? As we saw with your brother, it was something that he really struggled to do.
I actually tried and I couldn't get him to do it. I think having a good people around you is a massive thing. Obviously, I tried, I couldn't get him to do it. It's probably that stubbornness that I said my parents have got. That's where he's got it from. But maybe if you've got a friend or if you know someone personally who's struggling, maybe if you can try and get them into a gym. And I think the type of gym you go to plays a part as well. Like, say at the Fitness Factory, we try and create that community vibe where everyone's welcome. So if you walk through the doors, you won't see a big bodybuilder with his top off. You know what I mean? Screaming, smashing weights around. Because if you're suffering mental health and it's your first time stepping into a gym,
fucking last thing you want to see.
It's the last thing you want to see. Or there's loads of loud music playing, you're going to feel intimidated.
Ray said the exact same, and I like that because especially coming from somebody who's a powerlifter, especially Dean and Liam as well, who are powerlifters, even yourself, who throws around 60, 70 kg weights. If anything, you're the type of guys who want to be taking your top off and doing that kind of thing. So I think that's quite good for you guys, for it to actually come from you to say, no, we don't want that environment in here.
We want to cater for them. So we have like all the equipment what a powerlifter needs, but we just don't want all that screaming and shouting, tops off. What comes with it. And it makes it more of a welcoming place for everybody to try. Like someone who would see that for the first time might be scared, terrified of that. But then because it's so welcoming, you might think, you know what, I might try that. You know what I mean? I might try a bit of powerlifting. It makes it a lot more welcoming. So maybe if like Jim's thought about that a little bit more, it might help people get off the settee and go there. So they're not scared to step foot in. Because even the amount of clients I've had who have took on for the first time, I take them into the gym, they come upstairs, they're in the cardio section, and they struggle to come downstairs into the weights.
Okay.
So I mean, it's still that's still there, it's still prevalent.
That intimidating
yeah.
feeling. And do you know what? Even somebody like me who's been training for years, I remember when, because obviously I used to train at Capital Gym since I was a kid, since I was 16 for into my 20s. And then I came to Fitness Factory. I fancied a bit of a change. I don't know whether it's whenever you walk into any new gym, the first time I stepped into the gym, you do feel a bit anxious. You feel a bit nervous. You're like, oh, I'm the new person. Is everyone looking at me?
Yeah.
Like, are they looking at who I am? And you feel a bit nervous about trying different machines because you're going to get it wrong. And again, that's me, somebody who trains all the time. So I can completely understand it from the point of view somebody who's maybe fairly new to gym, or if they're struggling and they're trying to get back into it. I completely understand it. But what would be your advice to somebody who, say, is in a similar position to Tony and they're struggling, and again that they're getting through life, but and again I'm not 100% sure what it was that was Tony's kind of biggest difficulty in life, whether it was the fact he didn't feel like he was doing as well as he should be. But say if it was somebody who is similar in Tony's position, what would be the advice that you would give them, would you say, especially from being so close to it?
Train. Massively, I know it's hard.
You know, it sounds so obvious. I genuinely think people don't understand, do they, how much of a difference it makes.
You ain't gonna get better sitting at home in your bed. You know what I mean? Thinking you might have gone through some trauma or something was threw your life off track, but that's not going to go away if you just sit there and do nothing about it. If you can get up, start training, start to feel good about yourself, you come back to that situation, you're looking from a different angle, right? What's next? So I feel good about myself, right? I'm going to get my life back on track. So first thing I'd say, just get in the gym. Yeah, massively.
I think that's a big thing, what you just said about feeling good about yourself. I think there's one thing that I've noticed, especially over the last couple of years with myself, I kind of self-reflected, and I felt like I was doing a lot of things which I wasn't proud of myself when I self-reflected. And of course there were times when I probably didn't particularly feel great, and I thought, you know what, I really have to have an honest conversation with myself, self-reflect. I thought, do you know what, I'm going to start doing things, whether it be, obviously I've always trained, but even other things outside of training, things that I can actually look back on myself and say, do you know what, well done, Guillaume. I'm having a conversation with myself. I'm proud of you for doing that. Well done. So whether it be gym, whether it be helping people, whether it be going after something that you really want to do that as purpose or whatever it may be.
And even good food as well.
Yeah.
When I talked about serotonin as well, most of your serotonin is actually made in your gut. You know what I mean? So if you're putting bad food into your gut, you're going to feel awful. And I feel like in myself where there's been shifts in my diet where maybe I'm not eating so clean. And you do feel awful. You feel terrible about yourself. And even after you've eaten that meal, you don't feel good about yourself. But if you have a good couple of weeks of eating clean, it's like you can think clearer, you're proud of yourself, I've done a good thing, and you just feel brilliant. So your food's a massive thing as well, I believe.
I completely agree. And I think it's kind of like that short-term gratification when it comes to food over kind of the feeling of the long-term results as well. Because like I say myself, I said my diet's like reasonably decent. It won't be as good as yours. But like I say, I try to stay disciplined Monday to Friday. My diet will be good. And while my diet's good, do you know what? I feel amazing as well during the week. I feel great. My energy levels are high. I feel good. Then I always say to myself, I'll treat myself. And I've had this conversation myself this week. I'm like, I'll treat myself. But when I treat myself, mate, I'll treat myself good. Like, I'll have a chip, I'll have sweets, I'll have chocolate. And it feels amazing in the moment. But as soon as I'm done eating, I've had that moment.
Regret kicks in.
I feel terrible. Like the regret kicks in. I feel shit because I've just put shit into my body, into my gut, and you regret it instantly. And like with a lot of things that are bad for you, it's your short-term gratification, right? That's the law of it.
I don't know about you. It feels like it's when you've had that last mouthful as well. So you swallow it, boom. Why have I done that?
It is literally as soon as you've finished and you've had that last bite and that short-term gratification is gone. You're literally straight away. Why have I just done that? So no, that completely. Yeah, I can resonate with that. But and again, I do want to make this podcast about Tony. Like I said, I think it's an amazing story. It's a heartbreaking story as well. And I think it's just interesting to hear about how you're dealing with it, right? 'Cause
Yeah.
as much as it was Tony's story, it's your story as well. It's your mum, it's your dad's
Yeah.
story. But if you could go back and just think about how he was feeling, there was no signs, were
Yeah,
there? Like, in terms of
Yeah, do you know, actually, towards the end, where just before a few days before he did take his own life, it's probably the happiest I've seen him.
really,
Yeah, even my parents
that's
said
crazy.
they'd say, "Oh, we see him in the kitchen dancing. He had music
That is
playing."
crazy.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
So when you say, if you think of the typical person who's maybe on the verge of committing
Yeah.
suicide, you think someone who's depressed
Yeah.
and feeling
but
sad.
it's almost the opposite.
Your
complete
brother was
opposite,
like
yeah.
the happiest guy
Yeah.
like, in the weeks leading
Yeah,
up
yeah.
to.
You
Well, he
actually
seemed the
thought,
happiest
yeah.
guy, right?
You actually thought he's making improvements here. Like, yeah,
Wow.
he's coming on leaps and bounds. But I don't know if because in his own head, it's done now. I've got it set. I know exactly what I'm going to do. The pressure went away. The stress went away. For that's it. The solution's there.
Do
Yeah.
you think that gave him relief then when he knew what his decision
Yeah,
was?
I
Do
think
you think that's what it
massively,
was?
Yeah. Like I think it was a solution. I don't think it was like a stupid decision he made. It's a solution, and I think when you think that solution is about to happen, I think that stress is going. I think there's something about that story as well. It makes me think you should always check up on your friends. So, from his friend's point of view, his friends were absolutely brilliant. They knew him so well. He actually knew him this well. When we got his note back that he left, we actually couldn't access it. So it was on his phone, and the police took it. So they had the phone.
You couldn't access the note?
Yeah, so we couldn't get onto his phone, and the police took it to almost make a bit of an investigation of it, saying we want, before we can give him the family death certificate, we need to see this note first to see what's going on. So unfortunately, we didn't get that note back till probably about 8 months after he actually passed.
For real?
Yeah, we waited for absolutely
That's
ages.
bollocks,
So
that is, that you have to wait 8 months.
yeah, an absolute joke. But obviously, in that time, obviously had his funeral. So when we were getting his funeral arrangements together, his friends come forward and said, "Right, at his funeral, can we choose a song for him?" And we go, "Yeah, of course you can." So they chose Oasis "Live Forever." So they chose that song, and I think we had it playing on the way out of the church. I can't remember if it was on the way out of the church. We definitely had it playing. When we got the note back, it was probably, let's say it was another 7 months after that, he actually wrote that in his note. He said,
Wow.
"I want the song playing." Like, his mates knew that. That's why they knew
That's
him. They knew
ridiculous,
what song
yeah.
they should have play at his funeral, and it's
Yeah.
the song he wanted. Like, it was absolutely insane. So with that, so his friends knew him really well. We didn't know this either, so I didn't know it, or my parents didn't know it. The day after he took his own life, he was actually meant to be on holiday to Benidorm. So he had
day
it booked.
after?
Yeah. So we didn't know about it. So that's the reason he actually had work off. So he booked work off for holiday. And it's obviously his friends knew he was out of work.
That's strange. Why
yeah,
would he
so-
book that?
Yeah, so it was booked. I think he had it paid for.
Or was that booked like well in advance? do you
Yeah.
think?
I actually think it was his way of putting that front to say, "I'm okay."
Yeah.
Yeah, so you don't have to worry about me. I'm coming on holiday with you. Do you know what I mean?
I can
I'm
tell
making
you've thought
improvements.
about every scenario,
everything, yeah.
why he's done what he's
Yeah.
done. You've played it out in your head,
Yeah,
right?
so-
You rationalised
Yeah,
it.
100%. So when my mum called to tell him the early hours of the morning, that's where they were shocked, saying, "He's coming on holiday with us tomorrow. What the hell's going on?" But obviously, when we were in his flat, he had no bags packed, anything like that. There was no signs of him going on holiday. He knew he wasn't going. And even in a note, he even said, obviously, we didn't get it back 2 months later, but so for months later. But in the note, he left saying, "I want my friends to still go on holiday." Like, he knew he wasn't going on it already. Yeah, probably weeks in advance he knew he wasn't going. When he booked it, he thought, "I ain't going on that."
How did that feel to get that note months later? Because obviously you probably spent all those months trying to deal with things, rationalise things, and cope with things, right? And did it all just come and hit
back.
you
Yeah,
again?
yeah.
When you saw that, was it a long note? Was it?
So it wasn't that long. It's
What had you
probably
done? Just typed it out on
yeah,
text?
typed it on his note. So
Oh, okay.
the police actually came down and said, "Good news, we've got the phone back, we've got the note." So they actually printed off the note, but it was actually on his notes in his phone. But they
Yeah.
printed it off, and I think the whole note was probably covered in an A4 piece of paper. I think it was a little bit on the back
so
as
it was
well.
a long note.
Yeah, so it's quite long. So he talked a little about what he was struggling. He said, "Oh, I'm really struggling with my OCD." Talked about his life. He actually, I remember he encouraged us to say, research on OCD, like trying to understand what I'm struggling with here. he said, obviously, he apologised to
So
us.
did you feel like OCD was the reason
Yeah,
why
right. That's he left in his note that's what he was struggling with.
do you think he maybe became obsessed with the idea of
Yeah,
perhaps
yeah,
what he was about to
yeah,
do?
probably obsessed with that. Even how obsessive thoughts like of ending his own life and stuff like that. Maybe he couldn't get out of his head. So obviously asked us to research OCD. He actually apologised to the family. He said, "Sorry, I love my parents, I love Grant, love Lauren, that's my sister, love all his friends." He actually said, "Oh, my dad's my best friend," and I remember as well. He even put on it saying, "I'm sorry I had to do it this way, but I couldn't anyone else find me. I couldn't have my body on the tracks or in front of a car for other people to find me." I think even in that way, he was always thinking of someone else. Even there, like he didn't want anyone else to go for that trauma.
Yeah.
Say like a train driver to be the one to do it. So even then, he was thinking about someone else. Obviously, he left the song in there. It's pretty much like his last little goodbye. But even in the note, nothing seemed out of the ordinary for him. How he wrote it, but he's still definitely just intelligent. He was then. It wasn't almost like his mind was clouded. He could still think very clearly.
It comes across as like he, even to that point of him writing the note, he was a rational, logical thinker. Obviously, he wasn't in the right space, but it's weird. It's like he was. Even then, he didn't sound like he was depressed or anything. He's like, "Guys, don't worry, I'm doing this. I love you all. All's good." That's the vibe that I'm getting in terms of
like he's okay, but so again, that even could have been him holding that front up to us. No, that because he was so prideful in himself. Like, was he even that saying just the front? I'm okay. Like he wasn't.
He just didn't want you guys to feel the pain that he was feeling.
Massively.
Maybe.
Yeah.
No, I've semi kind of like lost for words, to be fair. And obviously, you mentioned your sister as well. How was she? How was she?
Yeah, she was shocked when it happened. Yeah, massively. She's shown a lot of signs of improvement now. I'm really proud of her because she's got I've got a niece, so she's got a daughter she looks after really well. Tony absolutely loved the niece.
Yeah.
I think maybe that's a little bit hard for her, knowing that he's not there, to witness her growing up, because he did absolutely love her.
Yeah.
But yeah, and them two got on so well as brother and sisters as well.
Yeah.
We know what we all did. We got on great. So with me and Tony, as like during our childhood, we're pretty much inseparable. All three of us were. When he moved out, we kind of lost our way a little bit. We didn't contact each other as much. We only talked to each other every now and then. But when COVID hit, we spent so much more time together. Like, for most, to say less than 99% of the population, COVID was a horrendous experience for them. But for me, it was fantastic. Like,
do you think it was good for him?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think it's good to him to be back with us, spending time with his family, spending time with his friends. But yeah, because we kind of disconnected a little bit. COVID was our way to brought us back together again. So
COVID
I absolutely
for you
loved
guys
it.
was I know it was such a horrible thing that happened for many people around the world, but for you guys, it was a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, positive. Right? Like, I feel like if I didn't have them, say, I think everything was locked down for say about a year. Yeah, if we didn't have that year together, we would have probably stayed disconnected for that whole time. But that almost reconnected us as like a family unit, because we were all back together again. So yeah, I know it's horrible for people to think, oh, if it's COVID was good, it benefited me, because obviously a lot of people lost like friends and family, lost time with their friends. But I gained from it, and I got to spend more time with her.
Yeah, no, I can see how that was kind of a blessing in disguise for you guys. Anyways, to use that time. I don't know if it's a chat that I can say that I've enjoyed this. I've been really taken aback by it, and I think it's opened my eyes a hell of a lot. The fact that sometimes I'll be walking around and maybe I don't stop and have a conversation with people where I should. Maybe if that's the smallest thing that me and people watching take away from this podcast, that a lot of people are going through things that we wouldn't even think of, right? But if there was one thing that you'd want people to take away from this podcast who are watching, what would it be? I know that's putting you on the spot a little bit, but what would be the main thing that you'd want people to learn from this story and take away from the podcast?
Yeah. I think what shows well is that to Tony, from my point of view, my parents and his friends, he was improving. Like I say, our family believed he was getting happier. Yeah, the holiday booked with his friends, and he still took his own life. So I think always checking on your friends all the time. I think that's the biggest thing. It's probably something I need to do more. But I know people checking on me. And I look back and think maybe I should do that more. But yeah, 100%. Just checking on all your friends, because you don't actually know how they're feeling until you do talk to them. Obviously, it might be hard to get them to open up. But obviously, you can always try your best. And yeah, that's it.
Yeah, no, I think that alone it is a powerful thing, because I know, like I said, in this world, there's a lot of things going on. Everyone's living at 100 miles an hour. Sometimes you are kind of tunnel visioned, and I think sometimes maybe I'm a bit selfish where I'm just thinking about myself constantly. Where we sometimes just need to slow down, right?
Yeah.
Look around us, look at people, stop, have a conversation. Sometimes give people the smallest compliment makes a big difference, right? I think that's probably why a lot of people appreciate you at gym as well, because and the rest of the guys like Liam, Dean, and Ray, because you guys stop and you talk to people, you have a
100%,
chat, and that's for a lot of gyms as well. It is people's therapy in a way, right? Which is a big thing. But no, Grant, thank you.
Thank you very
for
much,
coming
Dan.
on the podcast, mate.
Thank you very
It's
much.
been it's been a great enlightening chat, and you're one fucking brave guy, mate, to talk through that.
Yeah.
But I guarantee you would have. I don't think there's just one person that you would have helped. There'll be a hell of a lot of people that would have took a lot from this podcast. I've definitely taken a lot from the podcast. So yeah, thank you for coming on, mate, and thanks for watching, guys.